Nike just made the biggest mistake in sports history, and nobody's talking about the real reason why. What started as Caitlin Clark's record-breaking merchandise launch has now turned into a complete disaster that could cost Nike billions. The $40 t-shirt that crashed their servers wasn't just a success story. It exposed something much darker happening behind the scenes that Nike desperately tried to hide. The numbers looked perfect on paper: $500 million in sales within 30 days, over 10 million page views in 60 seconds. Stock prices jumping 8% overnight. But here's what Nike didn't want you to know. They completely botched the entire operation, and the fallout is just beginning. Before I expose what really happened, make sure to hit that like button if you think Caitlin Clark deserves better from Nike. Let me paint you the real picture of what went down that night. While everyone was celebrating the crashed servers and instant sellouts, Nike's internal team was in absolute panic mode. Sources from inside headquarters revealed that the company only allocated 2 million units for the global launch. A shocking miscalculation that shows they never truly believed in Clark's drawing power. Think about that for a second. They gave Jordan releases more inventory than the most anticipated women's sports merchandise drop in history. But that wasn't even the worst part. The real scandal started when Nike's bot protection system completely failed. While regular fans sat there refreshing error screens for hours, professional resellers using sophisticated software cleaned out the entire inventory within minutes. One reseller group based in New Jersey reportedly secured over 50,000 units using a network of fake accounts and proxy servers. These weren't your average sneakerhead. These were organized operations that Nike knew about but did nothing to stop. What happened next would shock everyone in the sports world. Internal emails leaked showing Nike executives actually celebrating the bot purchases because it inflated their sales numbers for investors. They knew real fans were getting screwed but chose profits over people. One executive allegedly wrote, "Let them fight over scraps on resale site. It only builds the hype." This is the same company that claims to support women's sports and equality. The situation got even messier when international markets opened. In China, where Caitlin Clark has become a massive sensation after her Olympic performances, Nike mysteriously allocated only 100,000 units for a market of 1.4 billion people. Meanwhile, they shipped 3 times that amount to European markets where Clark barely has name recognition. Fans in Beijing and Shanghai were furious, with some waiting in virtual queues for over 12 hours only to be told inventory was gone in seconds. But here's where things take a really dark turn. Multiple Nike factory workers in Vietnam came forward claiming they were forced to work 20-hour shifts without overtime pay to meet production demand. These workers, mostly women making less than $3 an hour, were reportedly threatened with termination if they didn't meet impossible quotas. Nike made $500 million while the people actually making the shirts could barely afford food. The company released a statement calling these claims unsubstantiated, but refused to allow independent inspectors into their facility. The controversy didn't stop there. When the second wave of merchandise dropped in November, Nike implemented what they called a fair lottery system, but investigation revealed that VIP customers and influencers were given special access codes that guaranteed purchases. Regular fans had less than a 1% chance of winning the lottery, while celebrities and their teams walked away with hundreds of units each. Drake's team alone reportedly secured 500 shirts through these backdoor channels. Sophie Cunningham, who's been one of Caitlin's biggest supporters and teammates, actually called out Nike publicly on social media before quickly deleting her post. She wrote, "Watching real fans get shut out while resellers make millions is disgusting." Within an hour, the post was gone and Sophie went radio silent on the topic. Makes you wonder what kind of pressure Nike put on her to keep quiet. The financial aftermath has been devastating for regular consumers. Those $40 shirts are now selling for over $300 on resale sites, putting them completely out of reach for most families. Parents trying to buy Christmas gifts for their kids who idolize Clark are being forced to pay nearly 10 times retail price. One mother from Indiana posted a viral TikTok showing her daughter crying because she couldn't afford the resale prices, saying, "My 8-year-old has Caitlin posters all over her room, but I can't even get her a simple t-shirt." What makes this even more outrageous is that Nike had the capacity to produce unlimited quantities. This isn't some limited edition artwork, it's a cotton t-shirt with a printed logo. Industry experts estimate Nike's actual production cost is under $5 per unit. They could have easily met demand, but chose artificial scarcity to drive up hype and resale value. They literally manufactured disappointment for profit. The situation reached a breaking point when a group of Indiana Fever fans organized a protest outside Nike headquarters in Oregon. Michigan, over 2,000 people showed up demanding Nike increase production and implement real anti-bot measures. The company's response? They had security remove the protesters and issued a statement saying future drops would be optimized for the best customer experience. Translation: nothing would change. But wait, it gets worse. Internal sources revealed that Nike is sitting on warehouses full of Caitlin Clark merchandise that they're deliberately holding back. They're planning to slowly release inventory over the next 2 years to maintain artificial scarcity and high resale prices. While fans are desperately trying to support their favorite player, Nike is playing market manipulation games with basic merchandise. The impact on Caitlin Clark and herself has been significant. Sources close to the star say she's been extremely frustrated with how Nike has handled the situation. She reportedly pushed for increased production and better fan access, but was overruled by executives focused on maintaining brand prestige. Imagine signing with a company to make your merchandise accessible to fans, only to watch them price out the very people who made you famous. This whole fiasco has exposed the ugly truth about sports merchandising. It's not about fans or supporting athletes. It's about creating artificial hype and extracting maximum profit from desperate consumers. Nike turned what should have been a celebration of women's sports into a masterclass in corporate greed. They took Caitlin Clark's moment and turned it into a cash grab that left real fans empty-handed. The ripple effects are already showing. Youth basketball participation among girls has been skyrocketing thanks to Caitlin Clark's influence. But these same young players can't even get their hands on her merchandise. Coaches are reporting kids showing up to practice with fake Clark shirts bought from sketchy websites because the real ones are impossible to find. Nike had the chance to inspire a generation and instead chose to exploit them. Here's something that'll really make your blood boil. While Nike was claiming they couldn't produce enough shirts to meet demand, they simultaneously launched 15 different Jordan retro releases with millions of units each. They had the production capacity, they just didn't allocate it to Clark's line. A source from Nike's planning department admitted off the record that women's merchandise is still considered secondary priority, despite all their public statements about equality. The international scandal deepened when it was discovered that Nike was actually selling Clark merchandise at different prices in different countries with no justification. The same shirt that cost $40 in the US was being sold for the equivalent of $90 in Australia and over $100 in Japan. When questioned about this pricing discrimination, Nike claimed it was due to local market conditions, but couldn't explain why digital products had such vastly different prices. Even other WNBA players are starting to speak out about the situation. While they won't go on record for fear of Nike retaliation, several players have privately expressed anger that Clark's merchandise disaster is hurting the entire league's merchandising potential. One player told me Nike just showed every sports brand that they can manipulate women's sports fans and get away with it. The legal implications are just beginning to surface. 3 separate class action lawsuits have been filed against Nike for deceptive business practices and market manipulation. Attorneys argue that Nike's deliberate undersupply and failure to prevent bot purchases constitutes consumer fraud. While these cases will take years to resolve, they could result in billions in damages if Nike is found liable. But perhaps the most damaging revelation is what Nike did with the profit. While claiming to support women's sports, the company took the $500 million in Clark merchandise revenue and immediately invested it into men's soccer sponsorships in Europe. Not a single dollar was reinvested into women's basketball infrastructure or grassroots programs. They extracted maximum value from women's sports fans, then turned around and spent it on men's sports. The social media backlash has been unprecedented. The hashtag boycott Nike has been trending for 3 weeks straight, with millions of fans sharing their stories of trying and failing to buy Clark merchandise. Even celebrities are joining in, with several high-profile athletes switching to other brands in solidarity with frustrated fans. The damage to Nike's reputation might be irreversible. What's really heartbreaking is seeing young girls who look up to Caitlin Clark being priced out of supporting their hero. Youth basketball leagues are reporting that kids are being bullied for wearing fake Clark merchandise because the real stuff has become a status symbol only rich families can afford. Nike turned a unifying force in women's sports into another way to divide people by economic class. The story took another shocking turn when a Nike whistleblower revealed that the company deliberately limited Clark merchandise to create a Supreme-style drop culture. They wanted the chaos, crashed websites, the resale market insanity. It was all calculated to generate buzz and headlines. They sacrificed fan access for marketing metrics. As we head into 2025, the situation shows no signs of improving. Nike announced new Clark releases, but with the same limited quantity approach that caused caused the original disaster. They've learned nothing and changed nothing. Fans are already preparing for another round of disappointment and frustration. The question isn't whether Nike will mess up again, it's how badly. The real tragedy here is what this means for women's sports. Caitlin Clark brought unprecedented attention to the WNBA, breaking viewing records and inspiring millions of young girls to pick up a basketball. But Nike's greed has turned that positive momentum into controversy and disappointment. They had the chance to be heroes and chose to be villains. If you're as outraged as I am about how Nike has handled this situation, make sure to like this video and leave a comment about your own experiences trying to buy Clark merchandise. And don't forget to subscribe because I'll be covering every development in this ongoing scandal. The truth needs to be told, and Nike needs to be held accountable for exploiting fans and failing the very athletes they claim to support.